The latest episode of Mystery Unsolved. I'm, of course, your host. You know my name, and you know this game. It's been a while since I did Mystery Unsolved, 3 weeks to be exact, and it's been so long that I thought I did. I didn't think I did the opening episode of season 13. In fact, I thought it was season 12, and I was going to do that episode all over again, the Sauter Children, but we're past that. And we're on season 13 now, which kicked off with, yeah. Anyway, welcome to Mystery Unsolved. Episode 2 of season 13 is going to be on the Keddie Cabin murders. This is another episode brought to you by BuzzFeed Unsolved that Ryan Bagara and Shane Bidet did for BuzzFeed Unsolved. Again, it was one of those episodes where I was like, why didn't I cover this? And there's no logical reason as to why I didn't. I just didn't. But now I am, season 13. Here we go. Without further ado, the Keddie Cabin murders. The Keddie murders are an unsolved quadruple homicide that occurred over the night of April 11th and 12th, 1981, in Keddie, California. The victims were Glennis Susan Sue Sharp, daughter Tina Sharp, and son John Sharp, and John's friend Dana Wingate. It gives their middle names and birth dates, but those aren't really relevant. So 4 people were dead. Would end up dead. The murders took place in house number 28 of the Keddie Resort. The bodies of Wingate, Sue, and John Sharp were found on the morning of April 12th by Sue's 14-year-old daughter, Sheila, who had been sleeping at a friend's house. Sue's 2 younger sons, Rick and Greg, as well as their friend Justin Smart, were also in the house but were unharmed. Tina was missing from the scene. Excuse me. Okay, first and foremost, there's two things to take from this. First off, that poor girl, 14-year-old Sheila, is the one that discovered the bodies. Also, why was it that Rick and Greg, the younger sons, were unharmed? And also, how did they not hear anything happen? Will we get answers to this? I don't know. Tina remained a missing person until April 1984, when her skull and several other bones were recovered at Camp 18, California, near Feather Falls in Buck County, about 62 miles from Keddie. Multiple leads and suspects were examined in the intervening years, but no charges were filed. Several new leads were announced in the 21st century, including the discovery of a hammer in a pond in 2016 and the discovery of new DNA evidence. Okay, you can definitely get through all this. Okay. It's literally just timeline, which is weird. Okay. In July 1979, Glenna Sharp, along with her 5 children, left her home in Connecticut? Connecticut, Jesus. I looked at Connecticut and I was like, how do you pronounce that? Brain lapse. Left her home in Connecticut after separating from her husband, James Sharp. They relocated to another. I can't talk. They relocated to Northern California, where Sue's brother, Don, lived. Wow, talk about wanting to get a. Talking. I might not even go forward. I can't talk. I'm thinking more fast than I can talk, which is why when words come out, they don't fucking process. Talk about wanting to get away from your ex-husband, right? Connecticut, California. Upon arriving in California, she rented a smaller trailer formerly occupied by her brother at Claremont Trailer Village in Quincy. The following fall, she moved to house number 28 in rural Sienna, Nevada, railroad town of Keddie. The house was much larger than the trailer and had become available when Plumas County Sheriff Sylvester Douglas Thomas vacated the property. Why are they giving me They're giving me everyone's middle name like it's important. I mean, I'm tripping over words enough as it is. Don't give me middle names. She resided there with her 15-year-old son John, 14-year-old daughter Sheila, 12-year-old daughter Tina, and two younger sons, Rick, age 10, and Greg, age 5. Okay. A little bit of a. Perhaps that's the reason that they were spared because they were so young. Uh, on April 11th, 1981, at around 11:30 a.m., Sue, Sheila, and Greg drove from the residence of their friends, the Meeks family, to retrieve Rick, who was attending baseball tryouts at Ganser Field in Quincy. They happened upon John and his friend Dana Wingate, again middle name, hitchhiking at the mouth of the canyon from Quincy to Keddie, and then drove them about 6 miles away to Keddie. Okay, I just totally got confused. I'm like, who's John again? Well, the 15-year-old son. Hitchhiking again in the 70s and early 80s. Probably let's just say the 80s. 70s and 80s, hitchhiking was just like a way of transportation. Now, I don't know if people still hitchhike. If they do, they're batshit crazy in my opinion. Ain't nobody picking your ass up when there's Uber. Like Uber exists, and if anyone's hitchhiking, it's probably in like the South or on the West Coast, like this. 2 hours later, at around 3:30 p.m., John and Dana hitchhiked back to Quincy, where they may have had plans to visit friends. Around this time, the boys were seen in the city's downtown area. So your mom drives you somewhere because she catches you hitchhiking, which apparently, again, is totally fine. And then you hitchhike back. One of these days, I'm going to do a whole video on hitchhiking and why I think it's just one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. At some point, there's a deviation in hitchhiking, and I just can't for the life of me figure it out. I never thought like, and I don't think it's a safe practice. Excuse me. I don't think it's a safe practice. I don't think it was a safe practice in the 70s, and I sure as hell don't think it's a safe practice now. The same evening, Sheila had planned to spend the night with the Seabold family, who lived adjacent to number 27, while Sue remained at the home with Rick, Greg, and the boys' young friend Justin Swan. Sheila departed house number 28 shortly after 8 p.m. to sleep at the Seabolds. Tina, who had been watching the television at the Seabold residence, returned to number 28 after asking what time it was at 9:30. So let me get this straight. One daughter was at the Seabolds. She goes home. The other daughter's like, "Let me go over there. Only I'm going to sleep over there." And then they hit the. And then the mother picks the son up because they caught him. They saw them hitchhiking, and then they hitchhike back into town. This just seems ass backwards to me. I don't get this. At approximately 10 a.m. on the morning of April 12th, Sheila returned to number 28 and discovered the dead bodies of Sue, John, and Dana in the house's living room. All three had been bound with medical tape and electrical cords. Tina was absent from the home, while the three younger children, Rick, Greg, and Justin, were found physically unharmed in the adjacent bedroom. Upon discovering the scene, Sheila rushed back to the Seabolds' house, and Jamie Seabold retrieved Rick, Greg, and Justin through the bedroom window. He later admitted to having briefly entered the home through the back door to see if anyone was still alive, potentially contaminating evidence in the process. Jamie, Jamie, what are you doing? The murders of Sue, John, and Dana were especially vicious. Two bloody knives and one hammer were found at the scene. Blood splatter evidence from inside the house indicated that the murders had all taken place in the living room. Sue was discovered lying on her side near the living room sofa, nude from the waist down, and gagged with a blue bandana and her own underwear, which had been secured with tape. God damn. She had been stabbed in the chest, and her throat was stabbed horizontally, the wound passing through her larynx and nicking her spine, and on the side of her head was an imprint matching the butt of a Daisy 880 Powerline rifle, or a BB rifle. Okay, can't even see me because it's so dark. I apologize. Better? There we go. It's just got wicked dark all of a sudden. It's wicked dark down there. Oh, how's it going, Bob? Finding Nemo reference if you didn't get that. John's throat was slashed. Dana had multiple head injuries and had been manually strangled to death. Like, okay, I've heard of murdering multiple people in the same, house and stuff, but 3 different ways to kill 3 different people? That's very rare. Usually, like, if you have a gun, you're going to shoot all 3 people with a gun. If you have a knife, you're going to stab all 3 people with a knife. If you have a cord, you're going to strangle all 3 people with a cord. This psychopath killed one person with a knife and a gun, another person strangled to death. John and Dana suffered blunt force trauma to their heads caused by 1 or more hammers. What the freak happened? Autopsies determined that Sue and John died from the knife wounds and blunt force trauma, and Dana died by asphyxiation. Okay, I'm not a forensic analyst. I'm not a medical examiner. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a police officer. I'm not an FBI person. But even I know that the depths that this killer went through to kill these people is not normal. Let me try this knife. Wait, let me try this hammer. Let me try this BB gun. Wait, let me try this cord. Dude, like, what the hell? Sheila and the Siebel family, with whom, we already know that, heard no commotion during the night. A couple living nearby in number 16 was awakened at 1:15 a.m. by what sounded like a muffled screaming coming from the direction of the rear area of number 28. Riddle me this. The Siebel family is literally right next to the... I totally drew a blank on their names. The Sharps, I'm sorry. I have this attention span of a fish right now. How is it that the Siebels right next to them, right next to the Sharp family in number 27, didn't hear a peep? Yet people over at 16 claim they heard a scream. Justin's stepfather, Martin Smart, a neighbor and a main suspect, claimed that the claw hammer had inexplicably gone missing from his home. In addition to interviewing the Smarts, detective interviewed numerous other locals and neighbors, several including members of the Siebel family, recalled seeing a green van parked at the Sharps' house at around 9 p.m. See something, say something? Like, Justin offered Justin offered conflicting stories of the evening and stated that he had dreamed details of the murders. In his later account of events, told under hypnosis, he claimed to have seen Sue with 2 men. I don't know that you can trust the word of this child. I really don't. Based on Justin's descriptions, composite sketches of the 2 unknown men were produced by Harlan Embry, a man with no artistic ability and no training in forensic sketching. Then why the fuck are you letting him sketch? Don't you want an expert? Oh, God. It was never explained why, with no access to the Justice Department and FBI's top forensic artists, law enforcement chose to use an amateur who sometimes volunteered to help local police. Thank you. Like, this isn't a serious case at all. Let's use an amateur sketch artist. What was a professional sketch artist too much money for the police department to fork over some funds? Jesus. In press releases accompanying the sketches, the suspects were described in their late 20s to early 30s. One stood 5 feet 11 inches to 6 feet 2 inches, tall with dark blonde hair, and the other between 5 feet 6 and 5 to 10 inches. Both were gold. Both wore gold frame sunglasses. Jesus. Rumors regarding the crimes being ritualistic, motivated by drug trafficking, were dismissed by Plumas County Sheriff Doug Thomas, who stated in the week following the murders that neither drug paraphernalia nor illegal drugs were found in the home. But you know what was found in the home? 3 dead people and a numerous amount of weapons that they were killed with. Were the weapons? Oh, those are the hammer one. I don't know. Tina's disappearance was initially investigated by the FBI as a possible abduction. Although it was reported on April 29, 1981, the FBI had backed off the search as the California State Department of Justice was doing an adequate job and made the FBI's presence unnecessary. Since when the fuck does the FBI say, you know what? The State Department, they got this. That's good. That's good. We like that. Most of the time, the FBI, from stories I've heard, are like, this is our case now. On April 11th, 1984, the third anniversary of the murders, a bottle collector discovered the cranium portion of a human skull and the part of a mandible at Camp 18, near Feather Falls in neighboring Buck County, roughly 5 miles from the Feather Falls, California. The remains were confirmed by a forensic pathologist to be those of Tina in June 1984. Shortly after announcing the discovery, the Buck County Sheriff's Office received an anonymous call that identified the remains as belonging to Tina, but the call was not documented. A tape containing a recording of the call was found at the bottom of an evidence box at some point after 2013 by a deputy who was assigned to the case. There are so many goddamn things wrong with that statement. Holy shit. Okay, first off, isn't it convenient that there was an anonymous call literally right after the remains were found? So that means after the remains were found, so the remains were found on the anniversary, the 3-year anniversary of the deaths. That's a coincidence. They then received a phone call, which probably means that they told the news about it. It was on the news. Third, they didn't record it, but then they found a tape in 2013, 30 years later, by a guy who was assigned to the case. So, cold case, but still very much open. I'm sorry, like red flags everywhere. The house in which the murders occurred was demolished in 2004. Did anyone live in the home after the murders? This is a question that I have. According to a 2016 article published by the Sacramento Bee, Martin Smart had left Keddie and driven to Reno, Nevada, shortly after the murders. While there, he sent a letter to his wife, Marilyn, ruminating on personal struggles in their marriage, in which he stated, "I've paid the price of your love, and now I've bought it with 4 people's lives." In a 2016 interview, Plumas County Special Investigator Mike Gamberg stated that the letter was overlooked in the initial investigation and was never admitted as evidence. But remember, the FBI was like, the California State Department, they got this under control. They're, they're doing an adequate job. That letter says otherwise. He later criticized the quality of the initial investigation, saying, "You could take someone just coming out of the academy, and they've done a better job." A counselor whom Smart regularly visited also alleged he had admitted to the murders of Sue and Tina, but claimed, "I didn't have anything to do with the boys." He allegedly told the counselor that Tina was killed to prevent her from identifying him, and she had witnessed the whole thing. What? John Boobity, another suspect who was in the same neighboring cabin as Smart, allegedly had ties to organized crime in Chicago. He died in 1988. On March 24, 2016, a hammer matching the description of the one Smart had claimed to have lost was discovered in a local pond and taken into evidence by Gamberg. 2016, over 30 years later. Hey, look at, I found this hammer in the bottom of a pond. You think it was used to commit murder? Let me stop for a moment. I only have one more sentence, one more sentence to read, but actually I have a few. Plumas County Sheriff Greg Hagwood, who was 16 years old at the time of the murders and knew the Sharp family, stated that the location where it was found, it would have been intentionally put there. It would not have been accidentally misplaced. Gamberg also stated that at that time, 6 potential suspects were being examined. Am I the only person that thinks that this case is absolutely messy as fuck? Pardon my French. It makes no sense. Usually you're able to piece shit together, but the more stuff that I read, the more I'm like, why is shit being discovered 30 years later? That's really freaking weird and bizarre. That's like, hey, I did it. Here's evidence. 30 years after the fact, you guys didn't check it. Double jeopardy, but technically not double jeopardy because I was in charge of the crime the first time. What the freak? In April 2018, Gamberg stated that DNA evidence recovered from a piece of tape at the crime scene matched that of a known living suspect. Usually they give you a list of suspects. This one's just got me like, what the fuck? Okay. I'm going to have to list my own suspects here. Number 1, Martin Smart, the brother of Justin, the father of Justin Smart, who was staying with the family. That would explain why he wasn't killed. What isn't explained is why would Martin Smart kill the family of one of his, why would he kill this family? His son was friends with the boys of this family. The boys were spared, except for John. But why would he kill them? Again, maybe something to do with his marriage, but why would you kill to save your marriage? I have no. Technically, you're ending your marriage if you're going to kill people. Doesn't make any sense. I'm just going off of what I read. He admitted to the murders, but only 2 of them. He didn't kill John, which implies that there would be a second person. But technically, they were all killed in the living room. So why would you kill the 2 girls, then leave, and then someone conveniently came in the same day and killed John? No, the same person killed all 3 of them. Or maybe not. Or maybe Martin had an accomplice, right? But even then, that doesn't make sense. Also, maybe it was Martin because, again, the murders were so goddamn messy in 2 ways. 1, messy because, when you kill somebody, it's going to be messy. But 2, in the sense that, he couldn't figure out how he wanted to kill them. Rifle? Knife? Hammer? Cord? Asphyxiation? Like, you shouldn't kill, but like, pick one. Like, what? Why are you using 5 options to figure out how to kill people? Like, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That sounds like an amateur. That's what's striking to me about this. I don't think it was that organized crime guy. The organized crime guy would have used one method. Had anybody ever thought of that? Like, mafia? The mafia is not going to use 5 different methods to kill you. If they're going to kill you, they're going to use one, and they're going to use it for all 3 victims, not 5. Using 5 methods to kill 3 people tells me one thing: amateur. It could be Martin Smart. Let me list a couple of other theories here. Number 2, did anybody maybe consider the Seabolt family? Sheila, the 14-year-old daughter at the time, discovered her family's bodies. What did they have to gain? I don't know. Sheila was staying over there. Maybe Sheila liked them better than her own. I don't know. If that's Justin, how dare you? I apologize. I just find it very bizarre that the Seabolt family, who lived right next to the Sharps, didn't hear one goddamn word, didn't hear a peep, didn't hear a scream, nothing. Yet people over in 16, which is probably like a good ways down, heard a scream. But nobody in the other 20s adjacent heard anything? Did anyone look into the Seabolts? If you did, again, probably not, because like I think Martin Smart even said like they could have done a better job investigating. If they looked into the Seabolt family, they didn't do a very good job. It wasn't thorough. There was a lot of botched evidence. The letter that Martin Smart wrote. So, Martin Smart, the Seabolt family. I'm not going to say Sheila because that doesn't make sense. There was no mention whatsoever of the ex-husband, right? So, do we know for a fact that the ex-husband was all the way back in Connecticut? Was he notified? There's no mention of that. So I'm going to say suspect number 3, based off of nothing other than the very beginning, maybe he killed his family. It's like, oh, you took my kids away from me? Well, now you can't have them. And I don't want them either. It's totally possible, right? But again, there's no mention of the husband other than at the very beginning when she files for divorce and moves her and the kids over to California. Based off of those 3 suspects, I'm going to go with Martin Smart. Because if he admitted to killing 2 of them, but didn't kill the boys, he spared the boys because technically one of them was his boy, but he killed John, even though he doesn't admit it. So I think it's Martin Smart. I think it's it's not really open shut because obviously it's still an open case, but I feel like very botched, messy investigating, which is hilarious because again the FBI was like, you California State Department police, you guys are doing an adequate job. This letter was missing, this hammer was missing, you guys are doing a good job though. If I may be so bold, I think if the FBI stayed on this case, I feel like it might be solved. Is that such a crazy thing to say? Because the FBI looks into very thorough shit. You know what I mean? Like, they're crossing every T, they're dotting every I. They're probably not missing that letter. They're not overlooking that. They'll probably find the hammer 30 years earlier, not in 2016. Yeah, I think if the FBI was on this case more, if they hadn't backed off, I feel like there's a chance that this case would have been solved a lot sooner. But unfortunately, here we are, with me talking about it as a Mystery Unsolved episode. I feel for the 4 of them, those victims. Like, And there's also no motive. You notice that? Like, what could possibly be the motive? We don't really know Martin Smart's intended motive. Again, like, it's just so bizarre. Like, 4 people are found murdered in their home, and it's like, what? Who did this, and like, why did they do it? What do you think? Who do you think murdered the people in Keddie Cabin? Why do you think they did it? Do let me know in a comment below. You won't, but I gotta say it anyway. This has been Mystery Unsolved, the Keddie Cabin murders. Very bizarre, in my opinion. Like, just absolutely crazy. I, again, I remember, I know that this was a BuzzFeed Unsolved episode, but I don't remember the details, and clearly I don't, because my God, just crazy. Do stay tuned for next week's episode, where it will be on the mysterious death of Michelle von Emster. For Mystery Unsolved, this is Justin Bienvenu. Have a good night.